everyone. Welcome to the Sleep In 2017 live broadcast. I'm Julie Flygare, and I'm the president and founder of Project Sleep and a person living with narcolepsy, and also the author of Wide Awake and Dreaming, a memoir of narcolepsy. So this is my first Facebook Live broadcast, so I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me. But I'm just so excited to be here today and to be with sleep advocates around the world that are participating in the Sleep In 2017. So just a little bit about Project Sleep and what we're doing here today. Oh good, people are joining, wow, okay. The Sleep In started 3 years ago, and the idea came from, basically the concept that often we are trying to avoid sleep in our society, and thinking that if we can get less rest, that we are actually strong, and that we need to abuse sleep in order to get the most out of life. I think it's pretty backwards. I think actually sleep is really vital for our success during the day, and that as much as we try to avoid it and we try to drink energy drinks and coffee and caffeine, and there's so many things to try to avoid sleep, that we actually really need to get our rest, and that is the essential part of our success during the day. Also, as a person with narcolepsy, I think I was always really fascinated by the fact that people seem to really shrug off the fact that I might feel sleepy during the day, like it's not that big of a deal. And I thought, well, why do people think narcolepsy is such a joke? And then furthermore, why do they think sleep is so not important, or have such misconceptions that if one does fall asleep during the day, that's something that, I'm being lazy, as opposed to experiencing excruciating feeling that's similar to, as if I hadn't slept in 12 to 48 hours. Or imagine feeling like you're starving and you haven't eaten in 48 hours, or hadn't drunk water in 48 hours, and how tired you might feel. So anyway, basically the Sleep In is to make peace with sleep for our country and for our world, and to do, instead of doing something super active, of course you guys know that I run a lot, and I am a marathon runner, and I've raised money for our narcolepsy scholarship through running a marathon. But at the same time, I really want to do something where we are celebrating sleep, and so by challenging ourselves to stay in bed for 12 to 48 hours over the Sleep In, I think it's a really cool way to bring us back to where we want to talk about, which is resting. So thank you guys for those around the world that have been participating in the Sleep In. There's some great pictures last night on Instagram from our Insta Sleep In of tucking in with each other from around the world and supporting each other. Today is Suddenly Sleepy Saturday, Narcolepsy Awareness Day, and so this is really exciting for all of those with narcolepsy and our whole community of supporters. I am astounded every day by not only the journey of people with narcolepsy, but also their supporters. So I know that we have a lot of loved ones participating in the Sleep In, parents, mothers, fathers, siblings. It's just really, it's so touching, even to me, to see your sibling or your mother participating. It makes me almost feel like my family's bigger too and supporting me. Okay. So just moving on a little bit, I had said today we're going to talk about basically some tips for awareness and advocacy, and then also tips for building a support system for yourself and how to support a loved one with a sleep disorder. I'm actually going to reverse that a little bit. So I'm going to start, realize that I wanted to start with building a support system, because before we even talk about advocacy and awareness, this is a little bit like that whole thing, like when you're on an airplane, you got to put on your own mask first before you can put on the mask of someone else. We have to be caring for ourselves first and foremost, and that is an essential piece before we go out and do any awareness and advocacy work. You need to be fully supported and cared for. This took me a long time. I don't like asking for help. I think it goes back to that. And I have a hard time. I want to feel like I can do everything on my own. So I just hated this feeling once I was diagnosed with narcolepsy that, you know, even if someone did ask, like, how can I help? I don't need help. Like, I'm too strong for that. I got it. But one of the coolest concepts I learned is having a committee or a board of directors for yourself. Okay? So think about it. If you're going to start a company or a nonprofit like Project Sleep, you have a board of directors. They're your trusted advisors that help you to make decisions and support you. The thing I love about this is that it's a group of people and not just one person. I think often, I know for me, I can get really stuck on wanting one person in particular to be my support system, but that puts a lot of pressure on that one person. So, you know, I think it's a really good thing to think about that you should have a whole board of directors, maybe that's 6 or 10 people that understand different aspects of your life and people that you know you can call on for those different things. So for me, on my board of directors, I have some people with narcolepsy and I also have people that we don't talk about my narcolepsy, but I really connect with those people on other things and other challenges in my life, or other passions like dancing and art history. And so it just puts a little bit less pressure on one person to be everything for me. And also, if I really sit down and write out this list, I challenge you today, if you're sleeping in and you're in bed all day, what are you going to do? Come up with your list of your board of directors for your personal, you know, committee of who is your support system. You can even let them know. I did this a few years ago, as I actually emailed them and said, congratulations, you've been nominated for my board of directors, and just explained the concept to them. And there are some articles online, and I can share those with you about this concept. And everyone, of course, I mean, they're already my friends and my family, and they said, of course, I'd be delighted to be on your board of directors. And just, you know, let them know that you really appreciate their support. So, you know, that's one thing that's really important for me. And I've touched on this a little bit already, but we can't have always everyone understanding our narcolepsy. And I think back to when I was first diagnosed, and there was particular friends that I just really wanted them to get it. And I thought if I gave them more fact sheets and, you know, explained more about my symptoms, that they were going to one day magically wake up and say, oh my God, Julie, I didn't get it. I get it now. I'm so sorry. And how can I help you? And right? Anyone else been there? You had those dreams? So I have had some people come around with time. That is definitely true. Some friends and family have taken a while to process, and everyone's on their own journey, and how much they can take on at a time. But other times I've just somewhat had to let some friendships go to some extent and focus on the people that are supporting me. So the good news is that those other people are out there. And that's the wonderful thing about connecting online with people like you, and are, you know, in support groups across the internet and in person, is that, and at conferences, that we can find new people that will support us. So my world has expanded so much through that, you know, to have so many friends with narcolepsy around the world. They're doing such incredible things. I just never thought that was going to be a real part of my life, and it is. So thank you for those that are, you know, out there, and that, you know, being part of events like the Sleep In is exactly that. It's building that support system for myself and for each other. Okay, so I'm just going to move on now to talk about supporting a loved one with a sleep disorder. Like narcolepsy, I think this goes for a lot of chronic conditions as well. It's, you know, these are kind of life skills, let's say. So the very first thing I want to say about this is that when you want to support someone with narcolepsy or a sleep disorder, I think there's a tendency to want to solve the problem, right? Some people are solvers. They're fixers. Okay, you have a problem, let's figure it out. Let's get a solution so we can stop talking about it, right? And it's so genuine that people want to help in that way. But often with a chronic condition, there might not exactly be a 100% solution or fix. So let's sit with that for 1 second. What that means is that no matter what you do for your loved one, they're going to still have challenges. They're still going to have struggles. They're still going to cry. They're still going to scream. They're still going to, be exhausted at times. And that's the truth. That's kind of just life in general. But I think it's important to recognize that, sit with that and know that there may not be an exact solution out there. But it's okay. Okay, wait, I got to get to my next points. There are a lot of very fantastic things you can do to support someone. And to be clear, your support will make a world of difference for your loved one. Not just a little difference, a world of difference. And I can say that from being on the other side of feeling misunderstood and feeling like my loved ones might not have understood. That when I finally had some people that really were keyed in and got it, it meant everything to my experience. And also, I've heard from people with narcolepsy around the world, and I've said this in speeches, so maybe you've heard me say this, but it's always surprising to me that even with the symptoms, as severe as they are, that feeling misunderstood is almost worse than the real symptoms. Or at least equal. It's definitely a huge aspect of having narcolepsy. And it's not on any symptom list, but it's a big part of the journey. So I'll see people, they'll start an email and they'll talk a little bit about their symptoms. And then there'll be this long paragraph about how, their brother just doesn't get it and how hurtful that is. And that all at once you realize, there's the symptoms and then there's something really big going on here. So that, that's called a stigma around illnesses or just, misunderstanding. There's a lot of different ways to talk about that. But so what I mean to say is that when you do support someone, you can make that big world of difference so that they can just focus on their actual symptoms of narcolepsy and treating those and feeling better in ways that they can. That's a big relief, huge. So some great things you can do, I think, are listen. And there's something called active listening, which is I've learned about just recently, even though, I'm 33 years old. It's always good to be learning. And there's a whole field, there's fact sheets about, how to do active listening. But what it is basically is that you can sit with someone and, without instilling your own opinions, you can be taking in what someone's saying and making sure they feel affirmed. And you don't even have to be agreeing with them. That's the fascinating thing, is you don't have to say, oh yeah, I feel the same way, or I totally understand. You can just say and then you can ask questions. So you say, when you say something like that, can you explain that a little bit more? Or just saying, I don't, how do I say this? It's basically like if someone were to say, I just feel so awful, you say, I'm so sorry you feel so awful. So affirming their experience and just listening will go a long, long, long way. And I really recommend looking up things on active listening, because it's been beneficial for my life well beyond narcolepsy. Trying to work on my active listening in the workplace and not just jumping on what I think, but really, really just taking in what someone else thinks. So it's a powerful concept. And a really other huge concept I cannot go this broadcast without talking about is the spoon theory. So I'm sure many of you may be familiar with this already, but if you're not, the spoon theory, I believe, was started by a woman with fibromyalgia. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. But she was at a cafe with one of her friends who she thought really understood her experience. And she said, her friend said, I just don't really get what it is like to have fibromyalgia and how it affects your life. So the woman grabbed all the spoons on the different tables and collected them. So she had like 8 spoons. And she said, okay, if you go throughout a day, what do you do first when you wake up in the morning? And the friend said, take a shower. She's like, oh, take a shower? Okay, that takes a spoon. And then what are you going to do next? You're going to drive to work? Okay, that takes a spoon. What are you going to do at work? Ooh, spreadsheets for hours? 2 spoons there. And basically using the spoons as a analogy for energy expenditure, or things that just take energy. And so basically at the end of the day that they get to the evening and they have 1 spoon left. She says, okay, so you have 1 spoon left. You haven't made dinner and you have a pile of laundry on your bed that you have to fold. So are you going to make dinner, but you'll have no spoons left to like clean up afterwards? Or do you use this spoon to, fold your laundry and get your bed clean? And just kind of had her friend think of that limited energy and saying, oh, I don't know what I would do. And so I think it's just hugely powerful. It's obviously super popular concept across chronic conditions. But it's a really wonderful way to talk about something with narcolepsy or with sleep disorders that isn't necessarily a symptom, right? So we have excessive daytime sleepiness, and I experience really, really extreme sleepiness multiple times a day, and I take naps. But another aspect of my experience is this idea that I have limited energy over a long period of time, and how I then prioritize my time to take, basically I have to decide, well, if I'm going to do this thing one night, if I'm going to go out to a bar with friends, then I'm not going to want the next night to do something like that. I just won't have the energy. And knowing myself to then step back and choose those extra things I do very, very carefully. And I will say that this is a similar concept to a lot of people that consider themselves introverts as well, that you have to recharge your battery a lot, and so it's just a really powerful concept. And for me, with my friends and family, it's made a way of speaking about this limited energy that's not intimidating, so that a loved one could say, we could be talking like, do we want to go to this dinner party? And I could say, I'm not sure I have enough spoons today, and it just kind of makes sense. And say, oh, okay, yep, got it. Or often it can say like, wow, I'm using extra spoons, I'm going to be way out tomorrow. I'm way out of spoons. So it just is it's a language to talk about something that otherwise I think is going unrecognized as part of our experience. So I think those are the main things I want to talk about supporting a loved one. And we've talked about supporting ourselves first, okay? Self-care is one more thing too. We're talking about putting the mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. But, I'm not so great at it. But we really need to care for ourselves first. And why is this so important that I want to talk about before we talk about awareness and advocacy? Is because I think, in my experience, advocacy and awareness has to come from a place where we feel calm, and we feel basically in a place of not being overly stressed and angry. So my narcolepsy advocacy definitely started from a place of feeling really angry. I would scream in my car at night by myself with so much anger and rage towards this experience and people's reactions, and I felt so alone. And that inspired me to study about narcolepsy, health law, and drug policy. So it got my journey going, that is for sure. And I still feel angry a lot, but I don't find it super effective. And so I'm, going to give you an example. Does anyone know someone in your life that's kind of like just like a Debbie Downer that, no matter what, that they're going to see the bad in something. They can be tough to be around because, in social settings, we, don't always want to have super, super deep conversations about really challenging things that we can't fix. We talked about trying to fix things earlier and how that's our natural instinct. But I've found that it's like, if I want to hear about someone's experience, I want to feel that they have positive energy and that I can connect with them. And so often I like to say that narcolepsy, I can talk about narcolepsy as being a really strong adversary, but that I'm a strong person and that I'm trying to overcome it. And I just mean that in little ways, finding little things, little tiny triumphs, as I like to say, to show that when you talk about narcolepsy, you can say, yeah, it's very, very challenging. Can you imagine feeling as if you hadn't slept in 12 to 48 hours? Like how tired I feel. Okay, but don't leave it there. The next point after can be, but I'm so proud of myself because I am, working so hard despite this, and I made it to a doctor's appointment yesterday. So, that's just a little bit about trying to add a positive spin to your experience. I'm really excited that Project Sleep is launching the Rising Voices of Narcolepsy program this summer. We'll have our first training sessions, and thank you for everyone who applied. We're going through everyone's applications now, and we'll have decisions by April 1st. But hopefully this is just the first. So if you missed the applications, I'm sorry. We tried our best to let everyone know, but hopefully this is just the first year and that this will be available in the future as well. But I also, that's kind of a little bit more of an intensive program. And so some simple ideas to do, what can I do today? Well, get involved with the sleep-in. Oh, you're already doing that. Okay, good job. But also join the Narcolepsy Not Alone campaign. So this is, I don't know if this is showing up backwards on your screen. Probably. But anyway, if you haven't already, please, 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 please take a photo for the Narcolepsy Not Alone campaign. And this sign is available on the campaign website, which is www.narcolepsynotalone.com. The beautiful thing about this campaign is that we can see each other. We can see all these faces of other people that are living with narcolepsy or supporting people with narcolepsy around the world. But also, we can use these to show the world that people with narcolepsy really are out there. I think often when I tell someone that I have narcolepsy, they think like, oh, that's so crazy. Like, you're the first person I've ever met. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that's true because 1 in every 2,000 people have narcolepsy. Of course, it's severely underdiagnosed, but I think there are a lot more people out there with narcolepsy than we realize, but it's not something that's visible, so you wouldn't know that I had narcolepsy unless I told you. So I use these photos from the Narcolepsy Not Alone campaign in every single one of my presentations that I give. And it's how I end my presentation. After I've given my full story, I like to say, okay, so, thank you for listening to my story, but I also want to introduce you to some of my friends. And people are amazed by the photos. It really drives home the point that it's not just me, but there are other people out there around the world living with this condition. So for those of you that have participated, I cannot thank you enough. Every single photo means so much to me. So, of course, get involved with that, with the Narcolepsy Not Alone campaign. And, there's conferences. Narcolepsy Network has a really amazing narcolepsy conference every year that I highly recommend for everyone if they can go. And there are conferences around the world, in the UK and in Australia, and meetup groups. So find those opportunities as well. Even though, it might seem like it's just like about yourself, there's a lot about advocacy there and awareness as well. So, okay. A few more things about awareness. I know that we kind of love numbers. We love to say 1 in every 2,000 people, or, I hadn't slept in 12 to 48 hours and things like that. But I think personal stories can be really, really, really effective, because at the end of the day, I think it's stories that we remember about each other. And they create visuals in our head that we can kind of play along with and have a sense for that person's experience. So, it's just try to, when you're, when you're making posts about online, tell a little about your story. And it's okay to say, this is a little bit challenging for me. And I feel a little bit, uncertain about telling you this story, but with my cataplexy the other day, I was sitting with my friends and my eyes were drooping, and some people noticed. It's not it doesn't have to be your entire journey, but giving a context, seeing someone sitting at a table with friends, it just makes it real. It puts it in a real place, in a real environment. So I really encourage people to use stories, and that'll be a big part of the Rising Voices of Narcolepsy program as well. Also, really, you can start small. Narcolepsy awareness for me is not a full-time job. I wish it was, but I work full-time at Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. And the beautiful thing about this not being a full-time job is that, it's not like we have to. We all want to go and change the world's perceptions tomorrow. Believe me, I'd love that. But it's something that can happen naturally. So by wearing, the Narcolepsy Not Alone Project Sleep wristband, it can spark conversations. When people ask me, in the kitchen at work, oh, hey, what's that? And then I can tell them. And I don't know if that person's going to be affected in a huge way or not, but these tiny moments can make a huge difference, and you won't always know when that's happening. So start small, wear a bracelet. Bigger things you can consider are starting a blog. Obviously I did that forever ago. I started my blog in 2009, so 8 years ago. Yeah. Oh wow. And I love blogging. I do think it's hard to keep up with to some extent, so don't be mad at yourself if you're not posting every day, and definitely it's okay to post once a month. I've gone through, there was one summer I didn't post at all. And I thought, is Rem Runner done? Is my blog done? And I didn't know. It's not done. I just took a break. One of the things I've done with my blog as well is, obviously I've done a focus on two things: running and exercising, and narcolepsy. So it kind of gives it a dual focus. So sometimes I can talk about my runnings, and sometimes I can talk about narcolepsy or other aspects. And so it's not just focused on narcolepsy, and I think that can be an approachable way to bring people in to learn about your experience that might not have thought they were interested in learning about narcolepsy, but they're also a runner, and things like that. So I've seen some people do some really cool things, and we all have such great passions, and bringing those together on a platform like a blog or Twitter is really, really cool. So, okay, when you do advocacy and awareness, I think there's a tendency to, this goes back to finding your support system, is that we would think, all right, I want to do this. I'm going to start a blog so that I can get my sister to understand. When I hear things like that, I get scared. I got to be honest. Because starting something like a blog, I would say really try to do it for yourself and not for one particular person to get it, because I'm not sure that person might not even like blogs. And I'm not a huge blog reader myself. I really wish I could be, and I've tried so hard. But then I've also realized with narcolepsy, I should just do things I'm passionate about and not try to spend tons of time forcing myself to do something I don't like. So even if I had a friend that I really wanted to support that had a different condition, I can't say that I'd be great about keeping up with it. But other people love blogs, and they love reading those posts. And so that's really the beautiful part, is that you're going to create a community that may be new and maybe not the people that you originally thought. And you never know who you're going to affect. So this goes for anything. This goes for conversations in the kitchen, when you're wearing a bracelet. And it goes for blogging and giving presentations and all the different ways, every conversation that we're, getting out there and talking about this, you do not know who you might be affecting. And this is so, 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 so cool. So I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. I've given presentations to med students, and I'm thinking, these med students are probably so type A and have such high energy, they're not going to really relate to sleepiness. Wrong. I've had multiple med students come up to me afterwards in tears saying that they think there might be something wrong with their sleep. And, they're just struggling to get through the day. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but tried to advise them to definitely look into a sleep study and to take their sleepiness seriously as a medical concern and to try to find what's going on. With blogging, one of the fascinating things for me was that when I first started my blog, I described my cataplexy, and I thought I was just describing that for my friends and family. And I'll never forget when a woman with narcolepsy reached out to me and she said, "Oh my God, I have a narcolepsy diagnosis, but I didn't realize I had cataplexy because my doctor had always said that cataplexy is when you completely fall over." But she's like, "I had that knee buckling thing all the time." Can you imagine? I didn't mean to make that connection. I was just working with the knowledge I had from my doctor and from the resources I had available, and to be able to help someone realize that they had this symptom. I just thought that was normal. I thought, everyone's knees buckled when they laughed. So that's a really powerful thing, and that's a difference that you can make in someone's life. That's just invaluable and amazing. So I guess on that note, I might sign off because I'm kind of getting sick of talking and hearing my own voice. But I really want to thank you guys for participating in the Sleep In and listening to this broadcast. This is where it really begins. This is where we get conversations started. And I know that even if you are sitting in your bedroom alone, you're not. I'm right there with you. Okay, I'm not in your bed with you. But you warm my heart. You give me the strength and the courage to do this every day. I was feeling really tired this morning. I did not want to get out of bed. But it's just a joy and an honor to be part of this community. You are superheroes. I know I say that a lot, but I really, really mean it. I just ran a marathon last weekend. One last story. And people praise me. Oh my God, that must be so tough. And wow, you must be so strong. And, okay, that's true. But in the back of my head, I think it's so startling because being a person with narcolepsy has actually been much, much, much more challenging for me than running a marathon. Marathon is very finite. It's these little boxes I check off, take this 30-minute run, do this, do that. And it only affects these little, parts of my life. Even if it takes over a whole day, what if a long run takes over a whole day? Okay? But how many times has narcolepsy taken over a full day, or a full weekend, or a full week, or a full month, and caused such challenges emotionally, physically, socially? So I just want to remind you that the adversity you're facing is real, and you're amazing for doing it. Even if that just means getting out of bed, okay? I know that, and I wish that people were standing up for you and applauding you and just showing you that respect that you deserve every single day. So I'm just gonna keep calling you superheroes until you're, so sick of me. But I want to be that reminder for you. Okay, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but that's just me. So thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to remind you what's coming up. We're going to have a Twitter chat at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. And then tomorrow night, we are going to have a very special REM dance party. Okay, get ready. DJ Faye, she is amazing. If you haven't seen her, online, she is a woman with narcolepsy and a friend, and she's been involved with the Sleep In since the beginning. She just is like lights up my life and brings so much positive energy to my day. And I know that she's going to bring so much to yours too. So do not miss that tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll get our dance on from our bed. Okay. Well, okay. I'll be here all day, people. So don't miss that. And keep taking pictures, keep talking, and we'll be supporting each other from our beds and having a lot of fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. On behalf of everyone at Project Sleep, happy, Narcolepsy Awareness Day. Don't forget to change your clocks overnight, although I think they just kind of change on their own now. And be careful driving on Monday, because that's the day when the most accidents happen, because people have lost an hour of sleep. That's the power of sleep. So get your rest and have fun, and I will see you again soon. All right. Bye for now.